Today, I want to talk about a movie that's near and dear to my heart, and it's a movie that to me is very, very sentimental. It's very obvious that they're going to move forward with the Jurassic Park films, so I feel like this is like a very good opportunity to talk about, one of my favorite films of Hollywood, and eventually finish off the franchise before they come up with any new ones. And so I revisited the 1993 film Jurassic Park that is directed by Steven Spielberg. It is the first installment in the Jurassic Park franchise. It is the first film in the Jurassic Park original trilogy and is based on the 1990 novel of the same name by Michael Crichton. This movie was released in 1993. 3 years before I was born, and this movie got me interested in dinosaurs. I used to look up at Wikipedia, I used to look up at images, I used to study dinosaurs, and again, I was little at the time. At that point, I was like second or third standard, and so at the time, I wanted to be like a paleontologist or something. So this movie has a lot of sentimental value to me. There's a certain magic about this movie because no matter how many times you put it on, like there's an awe factor that's missing in any of the sequels. Now, even in the second one onwards, that awe factor is not there. Even if I put this movie tomorrow, I would have the exact same reaction as if I'm watching it for the first time. That's how good this movie is. The dinosaurs look so real, and the way they did that, they did practical effects, especially when you look at the behind the scenes of the T-Rex introduction. There was a lot of work that was put in. Like during the rain, the T-Rex kind of stops in mid scenes, and so they had to put up a cover over him, they had to dry him out and then redo it again with the rain. There's a lot of passion and dedication that went into this film, and I grew up with this film, man. It's like every single opportunity I had, like prior to the internet, before internet became as big as it was, every single time this came on TV, usually show up on Star Movies or I think HBO, I think it was the time back then, I would watch it. These characters are so memorable that they stay with you. Their interactions, their scenes involving them, what they go through in this movie, the introduction of the T-Rex, the first look at the T-Rex, even though it's not a perfect movie, I'm not saying that at all. Especially when you look at the introduction scene, like the T-Rex somehow jumped 50 feet in the air or something. Like, because if you look at near the end of that same scene, right when Sam Neill is rescuing the kids, there's like a huge drop. So there are some silly things like that, but when you watch the film, you don't really so-called any of that in, especially if you watched it as a child and you grew up with this movie. In a way also cemented my love for films, and if you had a similar experience, or if there's even a little piece of you that loves and enjoys watching movies, then this is going to have a lot of nostalgic value for you. And every single scene to me is so memorable that I didn't even need to put it on to do a video of it. It's still so memorable. I don't know how Spielberg decided that he wanted to make this, but clearly it was some of the best decisions he made in his life. And even Dr. Richard Attenborough, who played John Hammond, rest in peace, man. Some of the most memorable characters, even his catchphrase, like spared no expense, it's still so popular even today. And the two kids in the movie, Joseph Mazzello and Ariana Richards as Tim and Lex Murphy, again, you would remember these kids even after you watch this, even after you finish watching the movie. Although I found Lex to be a bit irritating as I grew up, usually skip her scenes now, but as a child I didn't really mind. I feel like Lex was one of the more irritating ones. Like when I watch the movie now, that is my only slight inconvenience, I could say. But as a child, I had zero problems, and it's one of the more memorable child performances, like, you know, child artist performances. And not only that, they contribute to the story in some way or somewhere or another. And the way Alan Grant has to bonds with these kids and eventually grows a liking to it, and even opens up to the idea of having kids with Ellie Sattler. It's some of the most well-directed, well-crafted movies, and I doubt there's even a single person on this planet who enjoys movies that haven't seen Jurassic Park, the first one. It's one of the more nostalgic films. It's one of the more awe-inspiring films. Like, really, man, there's some magic to this movie, especially when you look at the dinosaurs, when you look at the scale of the dinosaurs, when you see the raptors, even though it's not quite accurate. But the way they designed the raptors to be so menacing and at the same time a bit smart, and the way they did the T-Rex, and like, there's some magic to the scale and the scope of everything that's being done here. It's pretty obvious that it's a high recommendation if you're some of the negligible percentage of people that haven't watched this movie and you call yourself a film buff, or you say you enjoy films and you haven't watched this movie. It's hard for me to take anyone seriously at that point. It's a movie that I can never get tired of, and if possible, when they announce the new Jurassic Park movie, I might put this on again just to be a bit of a refresher. This one still holds a place in my heart. None of the future sequels or installments ever came close to the excellence that is this movie. This is, like, to me, some of the top tier movies. And definitely, if I have to pick favorites, which I usually never do, but if I have to, this is definitely up there, and definitely in my top 10 for sure. Definitely in my top 10, and a bit higher up on the top 10. So yeah, if you haven't watched it yet, then watch it. It's a movie that you'll definitely enjoy.
She would never listen. All the alcohol is in my liver. I guess I lost and you're the winner. Missing your touch, you were a good kisser. I was born a saint, but now I'm a sinner.